Hey everybody, welcome to Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Today we are talking RoboCop, not the movie, which is awesome, nor any of the sequels, not the cartoon, although I might do that one of these days, but the Canadian TV show from 1994. And what can I say? It is a mixed bag. There are some genuinely good episodes and performances in it, and some that I absolutely did not care for. The series got 21 episodes and a pilot and ran on CTV in Canada and in syndication in the United States. It was part of that 80s, 90s wave of syndicated sci-fi and fantasy that included Star Trek The Next Generation, Highlander, Hercules, Xena, all that kind of stuff. The TV show is a follow-up in some ways to the cartoon, in that it was designed to be watched by the whole family. So you don't get the carnage that you did in the films. This RoboCop needed to be more kid-friendly, and it is. This does not have to hurt a show, of course. You can have good stories, good characterizations without gore or sex, but it does take the edge off of RoboCop, which was bound to disappoint many fans of the character. They do include fake commercials. Some are done well, and a fake cartoon series from OCP called Commander Cash, a corporate superhero that mostly advertises, a bunch of crap to kids. I thought the Commander Cash bits were actually very well done and very well animated. So you do get that sort of, it's the near future, it's this weird, highly corporate world, with all the, with the fake commercials, with the fake cartoons. So they kind of give you that you got in the movie. Episodes oftentimes begin with newscasts, or they're punctuated with newscasts that kind of help with the world building and advancing the story outside of the story. You get the same basic storyline as in the first film. Murphy, injured horrifically, turned into a cyborg, etc. Murphy and RoboCop are played by Richard Eden, whose longest run on a show was the daytime soap Santa Barbara as Brick Wallace, but he did a lot of TV and a few movies. He does a nice job in this show as the title character. Definitely has the right look with the helmet on. I mean, it is weird when it's not Peter Weller. It strikes you that it's not quite right, but he does a good job in and of itself. The show does far more with RoboCop's family than the first film. His wife and son both appear in several episodes, with maybe a glimmer of who he might be. They might have figured it out. I think Eden does a good job in these emotional situations as an unemotional character. So it's kind of difficult to play, and I think he does it well. We also get a couple episodes with Murphy's dad, a retired cop played by Martin Milner, of course, of Adam 12 fame. Milner does a great job in the show, and I really dig that they brought him in, considering a good portion of the kid audience would not get the reference of who he is and why he's there. Murphy's partner in this one is Lisa Madigan, played by Yvette Nepar. A long list of TV credits, including Freddy's Nightmares, Midnight Caller, The Flash, and 3 episodes of The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. She kind of starts out as a patrol officer, gets promoted to detective during the series. Another bright spot in the show. Good performances, and they do a good job with her character, so she's not just like a sidekick to RoboCop. One episode in particular has her dealing with a drug addiction caused by a nefarious employee of the ever-present OCP, and it is solid work. Speaking of OCP, I also like the way they portray the chairman, played by David Gardner. Gardner was okay in the role. He was fine, but the characterization I thought was excellent. The easy, lazy thing to do, at that point in time especially, is just have OCP and its chairman be two-dimensional, greedy, corporate, evil guys. Super common trope on TV and in movies at the time. But we actually get something more here, as campy as the show can be. As with the chairman in the first film, he does like to make money, and he is a businessman. But he honestly thinks that the products and services that OCP provide make for a better world. That's kind of his blind spot. When he finds out that an underling is breaking the law, hurting people, etc., he puts a stop to it. Consider the chairman in the first film, the great scene at the end with the, Dick, you're fired. He doesn't, stick with the corporate bad guys. He's trying to run a clean corporation. He just, like I said, has a blind spot to some things. One episode in particular, episode 5, calls this out as he is taken captive and held hostage by folks with a sick kid who was made sick by OCP. By the end, he deals with the situation in the best way that he can, all things considered. So, not a bad guy, and that makes him a little more interesting as a character. Blue Mankuma plays Sergeant Stanley Parks, in charge of the Detroit precinct where RoboCop works, does a nice job of keeping it all together, and as with some other supporting characters, gets some stories more focused on him, episode 19 in particular, and his adopted daughter, Gadget, played by Sarah Campbell and introduced in the first episode. Now, rounding out the main cast is Andrea Roth, introduced in the first episode as Diana Powers, but undergoing a transformation during the pilot episodes. She gets a pretty good episode in this one as well, and I thought she was really good in the role, and it's a weird role. We also get a guest spot for Roddy Piper in episode 14, RoboCop versus Commander Cash, in which he masquerades as the OCP-produced cartoon character. Highlander fans will also recognize Lisa Howard in this one, playing his sidekick, basically. Well, so far, I sound pretty positive about the show. And there are solid episodes in this series that I would definitely watch again. And then, there are 2 characters who, after the pilot and one additional appearance, I avoided like the plague. I didn't even watch the episodes they were in. I'm talking about Pudface, a disfigured hoodlum who Frank Gorshin would probably ask to tone it down a little bit performance-wise, and Dr. Cray Z. Millardo, played by Cliff DeYoung. I'm not going to necessarily blame the actors here. They have a script. They work from the script. The director tries to get the performance they want from the actor. But these characters really get to the weak spot in the series, and it is a major weak spot. The villains. The villains are campy, sometimes extremely campy, and the heroes, for the most part, are not. And I think this was to keep it family friendly, but it grates. It really grates. In the best episodes, the factor is there, but it's toned down. In the Pudface Millardo episodes, they crank it up, and for me, it just made them completely unwatchable. And I'm serious. I didn't watch them after the first couple. I decided that was enough, and life was just too short. And actually, after the pilot, I was almost ready to write the show off because it heavily features those characters, but I stuck with it, and I'm glad that I did. You do get action in the show, but it's a little bit neutered. RoboCop uses his gun, but never to actually shoot anybody. It's all trick shots to sort of save the day. You get some explosions and car chases. There's an action element to the stories, which is done pretty well for a syndicated TV show in the 1990s. And there really are some good things in these episodes, but it's a show that, like I said, I cannot recommend wholeheartedly. It's got the elements, but the execution is not always there. There are a few episodes, though, in particular that I liked. I mentioned a few already in this review, but to run them down, episode 4, Trouble in Delta City, deals with a mind-altering drug that has hooked Detective Madigan, as well as a lot of other people. Like I said, she does a really good job in the episode. Episodes 5 and 6 deal with the sick boy who needs a lung transplant. It's worth watching just to see the human side of the OCP chairman, but again, also those blind spots that he has. Episode 8 involves Murphy's son running with a bad crowd, so you get the problems he has in wanting to protect his wife and kid from the world, but also protect them from the knowledge of what he has become. Episode 9 is also in this vein, centered more around his wife. Murphy discovers his family is on welfare, which has been privatized and is being manipulated by an OCP executive to be more profitable. Episode 12, The Human Factor, I mentioned earlier, guest starring Martin Milner as Murphy's dad, who isn't thrilled with this newfangled robot being involved in police work, but eventually comes to accept it. Episode 18 is called Heartbreakers, has some nice moments for Andrea Roth as Diana Powers, and Ed Sahili as Charlie Lippincott, RoboCop's technician. This is one of those ones where the guy's brain kind of goes into the web. You got a lot of that stuff back in those days. And episode 22, Midnight -1, involves RoboCop and Madigan trying to prove a man's innocence before he is executed live on TV in a ratings bonanza. So the themes are there for the RoboCop universe as established in the first movie. They have to neuter the action a little bit. They have to change things up a little bit to make it work the way they wanted it to work on TV. And if you know those 90s syndicated shows that I've mentioned before, you're going to recognize the style in this one. It's unmistakable. And if you loved those shows, there's a good chance you're going to enjoy this one. I just think it's a matter of some episodes are a lot better than other episodes. Some performances are a lot better than other performances. It is a mixed bag. But I do think that the RoboCop TV show is at least worth checking out. It's one season, not a ton of episodes. So maybe give it a shot if you like that sort of thing, sci-fi, 90s syndicated, etc. Give it a look. Now, if you are a hardcore RoboCop fan, it ain't going to necessarily be the RoboCop you're used to. It's not going to have the violence level that you got, in the first movie, well, in the other movies as well. So it may be a little bit of a disappointment to you. But if you have more of an open mind on it, I think you might enjoy it. Let me know in the comments what you think of RoboCop, the TV show. I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this little review, please give it a like, maybe subscribe, maybe share with a friend. That would be very cool. But until next time, God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have a little bit of fun out there. Obey the law. And I will see you again, hopefully soon, in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye.